Hello everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of First Impressions. Today we're going to start our journey into the new roller coasters of 2019 by first looking at 3 roller coasters in the northeastern United States, which I will promptly call the North Atlantic. This section will cover the coasters of Yukon Striker, Firebird, and Steel Curtain, all of which are interesting coasters to look at. So without further ado, let's get into it. When I look at Yukon Striker, I see a dive coaster that is leaps and bounds ahead of any other dive coaster I've seen and ridden. While it does have the same introductory elements as every other dive coaster in the world, it has a lot more stuff to do right after that. You have a zero-G roll loop, and this does look much better than Griffin, SheiKra, and Valravn, definitely, because at least it has some more things to do. I mean, with Valravn, its spot is pretty tight, pretty compact, and you couldn't get many ride elements out with that system. So, but at least with Yukon Striker, you have the ability to move around and experience those different elements on a dive coaster, which I'm glad they did add that. It'd be pretty neat, pretty interesting for sure. And also, I'd like to talk about that intro for a sec. I feel like dive coaster introductions are less of a choice and more of a contractual obligation. I mean, why does every single coaster have a dive with an implement right after it? I mean, does every park that signs up with B&M have to say, okay, you need to have an implement right after a dive? It's getting pretty tiring just to experience that, or at least see that over and over again. Come on, just do something different, please. Yeah, but enough about that. If I'm looking at Yukon Striker in the terms of it just being a dive coaster, I see it as the best dive coaster I've ever seen in my life. But I don't think it's going to be the top coaster in Canada's Wonderland. I'd probably say Leviathan has that hands down, but who knows? What I see from Firebird is nothing more than a stand-up to floorless conversion of the first ever B&M roller coaster. This seems to be a rather general tactic parks have been using to get rid of stand-up coasters and just bringing them down into a sit-down roller coaster. And come to think of it, that's kind of makes stand-up coasters a dying breed. I mean, I don't remember many more stand-up coasters that are left besides Riddler's Revenge. But even then, it's still pretty small. Pretty small indeed. Oh, and there's that Green Lantern one over at Great Adventure too, but man, there's not many of those left. There's not many of those left at all. So other than that, it seems like they go for the secure options. I mean, it's pretty safe and secure just to change a stand-up to a floorless, just to make things a little bit different, a little bit new, but it's probably not the same. You know, it's just not the same as just getting an actual new roller coaster. It's just not the same. I'm sure the coaster will be fine with the floorless trains. I mean, California's Great America did it, Cedar Point did it. It works for them, it'll work for Six Flags too. At the same time, I feel like this floorless coaster is pretty small in terms of floorless coasters that are out there. I mean, it's going to be neck and neck with Patriot at California's Great America for the shortest floorless coaster there is. And with that, I don't expect too much of it. I mean, it's the same thing with new trains. It's a little different experience, but don't see too much about it. I mean, that's it. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, I did voice some opinions about Steel Curtain in an earlier video on the channel. But for now, I also like to elaborate on some points and rather add some more opinions upon this roller coaster. I first noted that I did like the layout of the roller coaster. It seemed pretty nice, pretty cool, and I was rather downtrodden on the theme of the roller coaster being after the Pittsburgh Steelers. Apparently I was a little bit infected with the urinating tree opinions about the Steelers team, and that carried over to the coaster, and that was wrong of me. I shouldn't have done that. I do know that I do enjoy local theming, and if that works for Kennywood, I'm glad. I'm glad that they have that. But for the ride itself, it seems pretty massive, pretty cool, and gosh darn it, it's probably going to be number 1 or number 2 at Kennywood, for sure. I do find it nice to see S&S try something a little bit different, at least try to make a coaster that is appealing to the Steelers, get things nice, and really just have these high-flying versions all over the place. I mean, just after the lift you get a corkscrew that's almost 197 feet high, and then from there you just plummet down. I think it looks crazy. It looks crazy good. And I have to say, if I ever have the chance to go up to Kennywood, I'll definitely ride it. I'd say this is definitely a big boy coaster for sure. I think it looks amazing. Looks cool. I'd say good job S&S and good job Kennywood for getting a really good coaster for next year. I'm mighty proud of you. Those are my first impressions on the 3 coasters in the North Atlantic section. I hope you come around for the next video on the new coasters of 2019, as we'll continue down south into the Carolinas and Florida for our next 3 coasters. I'll see y'all soon. See ya.